I hope you're doing well today. So, as we enter the summer months, I want to talk to you a little bit about sun protection and kind of your skin health. And it's no denying that, this time of year we're spending a lot more time outdoors, and that benefits us. It helps us produce vitamin D. It helps your mood, and so the sun does add value to your health and wellness. But there's also some downsides to it. So I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about those downsides and what you can do to prevent the harmful effects of the sun. So the big thing to understand is the sun emits basically ultraviolet rays, and these can damage your skin. They do it a couple different ways. They can cause skin cancer from the UV damage, but it also can cause your skin to age prematurely. So while there are benefits of sun exposure, we'll talk a little bit about things to do to limit that exposure so you're getting the most benefit, but also protection from the harmful side effects of too much sun. So, well, what's some of the ways you can help protect your skin? Well, the first thing is the simple thing is to limit the exposure to the sun. So that means, if you're outside, taking advantage of shaded areas, things like that, especially during the hours kind of 10 to 4. That's when the highest risk is. So simply just some avoidance of the sun is helpful during those time periods. Also, the type of clothing you wear is extremely important. You can buy clothing that helps kind of protect the sun, but specifically, long sleeve shirts, long pants, things like that kind of cover your skin, help protect you from those UV rays. Now, also remember though that a lot of clothing still allows some of these rays to come through, and so there's other things you can do to help protect yourself from the UV rays in addition to wearing your clothing. In addition, though, there's often we're outside in the water, swimming suits, things like that, and so there's some things we can do. And one of those things we can do is simply applying sunscreen. So you want to make sure you're protecting your skin by applying sunscreen. Now, really, there's kind of two different types of sunscreens. There's the chemical sunscreens that use a chemical basically to prevent the UV radiation from penetrating your skin. And then there's mineral sunscreens, and this is really just a barrier of your skin to block the UV rays. Now, the mineral sunscreens are typically considered safer, and they are the preferred type of sunscreen for children. But the biggest thing is that you must remember to apply the sunscreen to get the best protection from it. So when you're looking for some sunscreen, the first thing you need to look at is the SPF. You really should have an SPF of at least 30. This is going to protect pretty much all of the UV rays. They have a lot of SPFs that go a lot higher than that, but really it should be a minimum of 30. It's also nice to use water-resistant sunscreen, specifically if you're obviously going to be in water doing swimming, things like that. But the important thing is that you're applying the appropriate type and amount of sunscreen. So you may actually want to consider applying sunscreen to areas that are covered by your clothing, just to make sure that if any of those UV rays are getting through your clothing, you're still protecting yourself. You want to make sure you apply it early on before you're out in the sun, 15 to 30 minutes before you have any sun exposure to kind of let it settle in with your skin. You want to make sure you're obviously getting all the areas that are exposed to the sun, your face, your neck, your back, tops of your ears, your scalp, things like that. But also remember your hands, your legs, your feet are also exposed as well. So it's important to make sure that you're applying the sunscreen to everywhere that's going to be exposed to the sun. Now, depending on the activities you're doing, you should reapply a minimum of every couple hours, and more frequently if you're in water activity. So if you're in water, it's every 60, 90 minutes you'd reapply. If you're just outside walking, things like that, about every couple hours. And then it's really, make sure you're applying enough to cover the skin well. Now, sunscreen, does have expiration dates on it. And so you want to make sure you're using sunscreen that's not old sunscreen, because this will affect its ability to protect you. So make sure that it's, probably not any older than 3 years. And you also want to make sure it's been stored correctly, kind of in a cool, dry place, because heat and humidity will break down the sunscreen. So make sure it's been stored correctly. Another area of the body that's often overlooked is your lips. You want to make sure you're protecting your lips. You can do that by applying a lip balm that also has an SPF of at least 30 in it. But make sure that you're really generous on your lips to protect your lips, because that's a very sensitive area of skin. Now, one thing of caution is a sunscreen in babies, typically less than 6 months. You shouldn't be applying traditional sunscreen. You really should just be trying to keep them away from the sun and keep them covered and adequately so they don't have a lot of sun exposure. And remember that sunscreen isn't an ultimate protector. It's just there to help add another layer of protection. But remember, the other things you can do, shade and things like that. In addition to that, wearing a hat is extremely helpful to protect your face and your head and your eyes from the harmful rays of the sun. So make sure you're wearing a nice hat with a white brim. Often people wear a baseball cap, but understand obviously that's not protecting your neck or anything like that. Another area that's often kind of forgotten about is your eyes. Really make sure you're wearing sunglasses that have a UV blocking in them, so that you're preventing these rays getting your eyes, because obviously increased UV rays to your eyes is a risk for cataracts. So you want to make sure you're protecting your eyes in addition to that. In addition, during these hot summer months, you really want to limit yourself on hot showers. And the reason for that is you're kind of pulling moisture out of your skin. And so you want to make sure you're limiting hot showers to minimize that. And then obviously you want to add moisturizer depending on kind of where you live. Now, when we talk about the sun exposure, these are general terms, because it is very much dependent on geographically where you live. So higher altitudes, hot areas, things like that. So it does take a little common sense. But along with moisturizers and things like that, hydration is extremely important. You want to make sure that you're consuming enough water so that you're not getting dehydrated. As you get dehydrated, the skin is more susceptible to damage from the sun. So make sure you're drinking plenty of water. So, the important thing to remember is the sun does offer value, helps us in both our physical wellness and also our mental wellness. But it's like anything, you've got to be cautious and not overdo it. There are things you can do, steps you can take to ensure that you're safe from the sun. So it's really, a lot of common sense. But unfortunately, in the world I live in, I do actually see a lot of people in the emergency department with pretty significant sunburns. And obviously, despite the fact that they're unpleasant, there's also damage to the skin, and we really don't want to do that. So, as you go on your health and wellness journey, remember, get appropriate amount of sun exposure, but then also protecting yourself from some of the harmful side effects of the sun. In the end of the day, it's really just, like I said, common sense. Wearing the appropriate clothing, applying the appropriate sunscreen, and making sure you keep yourself hydrated. So it's a short one this week. Hope you have a great week, and remember, you've got this. Thanks.